For this project, all I needed was a curtain panel, which I already had on hand, some pre-made bias tape, and some iron-on adhesive. First, I grabbed my curtain panel and folded it in half lengthwise. Then I used some quilting clips to clip the edges together. I laid the folded curtain on the floor with the fold facing me, then measured down about 7 inches from the top of the curtain and made a mark with an air erasable marker. Then I used my large ruler and made marks from the initial mark down at a 45-degree angle until I got a little over halfway across the curtain. I connected the marks, then made a slightly curved line going the opposite direction about 6 inches. I continued this pattern until I couldn't anymore. Then I used some sharp scissors and cut out everything that I had traced. Next, I unfolded the curtain and started applying bias tape. Starting on the left side of the triangle, I opened up the bias tape with the fold facing me, then slid the bottom portion under the curtain. Then I placed a strip of the iron-on adhesive onto the curtain and followed the directions on the box. At the curve, I took my time and moved the fabric around so I could attach the bias tape without any creases or wrinkles. At the point, I carefully snipped off the bias tape at an angle to line up with the fabric. Then I lined up the bias tape with some overhang. Then I repeated the process of attaching the bias tape. I then lined my floor and placed the curtain on top. Then I mixed up some fabric stiffener with some water, about a 1-to-1 ratio, then used a paintbrush to apply it to the bias tape and the triangle-shaped pieces of fabric. I allowed the curtain to dry overnight. Then I made and attached a bow at the top of the curtain with some hot glue. Then I hung up my tree-shaped curtains, and I think they are so cute and a great way to add a bit of holiday cheer to my home.
If you have some bare windows that could use some added interest, here's what I did by simply heading outdoors first. I am measuring the width of my chosen windows, then cutting some grapevine branches to at least that length. I'm now selecting a support stake and cutting it down to the inside of each window. I'm cutting enough branches to create a small bundle for each window. Testing their size, I'm holding one bunch in a window, then penciling in where I'd like them to hang. Working with that pencil mark, I'm screwing in a closet dowel bracket, then adding one to the other side of the window at the same height, then positioning the support stake inside the brackets. Back to the branches, I'm ensuring one end of the branches are flush. Using some thin florist's wire, I'm placing the wire under the left and right sides of the branches, leaving lots of overage to work with. I'm now loosely twisting the wire to bundle up each of the sides of the branches, then double checking that the branch ends are flush so they will fit. Carrying the tied bundle to the windows, I'm using the wire overage to twist the bundled branches to the support stake. After attaching, I'm using some filler branches to beef up the bundles, making them appear as full as possible to resemble a twig roll-up line. By adding some branches slightly longer than the inside of the window frame, it causes the branch to bend into place and fit tight, ending up helping to further support the bundles. And the finished result is a nature-inspired twiggy roll blind that adds warmth and interest to each window without keeping out any sunlight.
Pick up a window-like frame at the craft store and create an easy winter sign. Start by cutting acetate sheets that are slightly larger than the opening of each window pane. You can use a dry erase marker to sketch or write your designs, or find clip art online to use. Keep the designs simple so that they are easy to trace. Once you've printed out your designs, attach one to each acetate pane. Tape to your work surface to keep your work from shifting, then start tracing. A chalk paint pen is easy to use, and any smudges or mistakes can be easily erased. You can also go over any areas that are sheer or see-through. Let the paint dry completely before attaching the pane to the frame. For easy removal, we like to use museum putty, which will keep the panes sturdily attached but can be taken off when needed. Now hang your frame and send some winter cheer.
Let's turn this old window box into something a little more festive for Christmas. I started by planting 2 mini pine trees on each side of the window box. Then I placed some cedar and pine sprigs all around the center of the box. You can actually get cut Christmas tree branches for free at Lowe's Home Improvement, which is what I did to fill up the majority of the box. I also added in a cedar garland and laid it all around the window box to fill it in more. Once I was happy with the placement of all the greenery, I decided to add in some gold picks. This window box sits directly under our tree by the window, and it has a gold theme. So since you could see that as well, I wanted to stay consistent. After placing all the picks around the window box, I added in some Christmas lights to give it some extra sparkle at night. I started by wrapping it around the pine tree on the side of the box and going all the way around to the other side with the lights. And now my window box is much more festive and cheerful for the season.
These simple dollar store frames and craft shapes can make for a spectacular Christmas design. Let me show you how. I opened up my frames and removed the glass. Using a snow frosted spray, I sprayed around the edges. Next, I picked out some of the thin wood craft shapes and sprayed those too. You can also paint these, but I found that the spray was easy and quick. While those were drying a bit, I used my hot glue gun to glue the frames together, creating a makeshift window frame. I added the glass with the snowy side facing me. Next, I added my shapes with the snowy side facing down. I added trees along the bottom and some snowflakes throughout. In order to make this really shine, I needed to add some lighting. I grabbed a small string of fairy lights. At first, I tried to glue gun these into place, but I don't recommend that. It didn't work, they didn't hold, I burned out the first string of lights, and I messed up the snow in some places. So, the best bet is to simply use tape. I set my project up and added some ribbon and additional dollar store greenery to give it a little flair along the top. I love the way my snowy window looks. It brings some light into my room without being intrusive, and provides a cold and snowy feel that we definitely don't get normally here in Florida.
With the holiday season around, it's time to head to Dollar Tree and grab some of these inexpensive foam boards. In fact, first thing I gotta do is put all of the foam that I have up against the window. I'm gonna lay it on its side or straight up. It's gonna give me kind of an idea of what I wanna do. This one is a snowman. I did a silhouette with a projector and just put it right across the first foam board. Just outline all of it right around the edges. Doesn't have to be perfect, but we want to get a good outline. That way it's easier to cut out. Place some cardboard under the foam board, and you can use an X-Acto knife or any kind of razor knife to cut through. Best thing to do is go slow, be careful, these knives are sharp. Just go ahead and start cutting all the way around the edges. Doesn't have to be exact, but just go ahead and cut. Make sure you get all the way through. There's nothing more frustrating than not being able to get it out. So once you cut it through, take little sections out at a time. That makes it a lot easier, especially on these bigger projects. On this next one, this is a bunny rabbit that we have that's standing up on its hind legs. I'm using a different knife on this one just to demonstrate that you don't have to stick with just the X-Acto knife. So we'll cut out the whole thing right around the edges, and we'll just pop that rabbit out. If any edges stick, just use your knife, cut it around, and then just give it a pop. These foam boards come across and come apart nice and easy. Next thing we gotta do is we're gonna put these silhouettes right up against the window. It doesn't take much, but I'm gonna use some white tape for this. That way it doesn't show against the white background. So take the tape, circle it up on each other. It doesn't take much. For this one, I just needed 2 of them, and I'm gonna place it in the window. Now, something I noticed was when I put lights behind my silhouette, the lights will show through. So take some black or royal blue and paint the back side of your silhouettes. Now, this might look like a mess, but it actually has a rhyme and a reason for it. Take those lights, these are 20-foot strands, and place it all up in the back of the silhouettes. Not too close to the edges, but as you can see, this is a test, and it's gonna look really good. The next thing we gotta do is put another layer on. I took 4 pieces of the foam board, put them together with white tape, then did a cutout of a large Christmas tree, and then put it on there. Now this one doesn't stick exactly against the window, but holds up a little bit because we're gonna put a little bit of a shadow in there. Once we do this, we're gonna head outside and we're gonna see what it looks like with it lit up. So here we go. With the lights on, you can see it. We added a little bit of blue behind the Christmas tree. There it is. And look at this. So amazing. Just lights it up for everybody out on the street to see. I hope this inspired you to build your own holiday window silhouette.
I'm cutting a small pool noodle to the inside length of a window, then slicing one side open so I can slip in a cedar strip. Now I'm painting the pool noodle in a natural shade of evergreen called Bayberry by Fusion Mineral Paint. Next up, I'm collecting all my blue and white Christmas ornaments, then selecting a few to paint in an icy toned blue craft paint. While the paint is still wet, I'm sprinkling on some faux snow so it sticks, then I'm allowing it to dry overnight. Now I'm cutting a piece of cedar strip to the width of my window that will be mounted with 2 open-ended closet dowel brackets. Now I'm positioning the pool noodle onto the wood strip through the cut slits. Now I'm specking out a country road where there's generally wind-blown branches on the ground. Once getting home, I'm shaking the branches outside to knock off any bugs. I'm cutting the larger evergreen branches into smaller bunches. The stems are being cut on an angle, then the bottom needles are being removed to create a poking stick. Now that I'm halfway done, I'm reversing the direction of the uncut side to the right. Now I'm cutting some neutral tone thread into long lengths. To hang the thread, I'm snipping some green Christmas ornament hangers in half, then bending each end to create my own shorter hooks. Since I cut one side of the pool noodles, I'm further securing the weight of the garland on it by screwing the pool noodles to the board. This will help keep the noodles closed once mounted. Since the weight of the garland may turn the garland facing downwards, I'm adding more branches along the top until it's completely filled in. I'm now hanging up the threaded hooks inside the garland, then threading on the ornaments. I'm now adding some fairy lights to the garland so it will illuminate the greenery safely. To winterize the garland, I'm applying short bursts of spray snow to the greenery to give it a fresh fall and snow vibe. And you are left with a gorgeous neutral winter window scene that is perfectly themed to stay up all winter long. The nearly invisible thread gives the blue and white ornaments a really cool snowflake floating effect, further emphasizing a winter wonderland. The spray snow on the garland adds such a whimsical lightness, plus it will help hide the drying out greenery. The windowsill also received a wintry forest scene with bottle brush trees, branches, and faux snow to further the winter theme.
Today I'm going to show you how to make some nice winter planters for your front porch using fresh greenery. And I'm using a planter. I'm recycling it from the summertime. This was once filled with pretty flowers. It's already filled with dirt. That is going to hold my greens in place. I'm using the same planting formula I used when I'm doing my summer planters, which is thriller, filler, and spiller. Right now I'm going to use this common pine as my spiller. It's very flowy and it'll go over the edges of the planter. Now that I have it filled in with the pine, I'm going to start adding some different spruces to give it some more height in the middle. Now that I have all the spruce filled in, I am going to add just a few sprigs of juniper with some pretty blueberries. Now let's go inside and warm up because it is cold. I'm taking some large pine cones that I have, and I grabbed a sturdy stick from my yard, and I'm going to hot glue the stick onto the pine cones, and we're going to put that into the planter. And I made 2 pine cones for each of my planters. And to give the planters a festive look, I have some red winter berries we're going to add right in the middle, just a few sprigs. Now I have some pretty ribbon, and I'm going to make a really simple bow to add to the planter. I'm just making 5 loops, and I'm going to secure them with a pipe cleaner at the bottom. And one more pretty touch I'm going to add. I grabbed some branches from my yard and I'm giving them a coat of copper spray paint. While I was waiting for the branches to dry, I added a string of lights to my planter, and now I'm just going to pop in those branches. And here's my finished winter planters. I'm Jennifer Howard from Cottage on Bunker Hill. Thank you for watching Home Talk, and I'll see you next time.